We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
There's a photo from the Family Tree restaurant, and you probably know this photo, you've seen it, but it's purportedly to be of Lucy. And Beaker, who used to be on the show, he swore up and down that the photo was of Lucy. There was another person there at that event wearing a gray hoodie that it could have been. And honestly, I can't definitively say that's a paranormal picture because it could very easily be that person in the hoodie. You know, and Tim and I will argue that all day long, but I have to, in my mind, to feel good about having any of my claims legitimized, I have to say I'm not sure. I don't think that it is, because I can attest that there was somebody at that event with a gray hoodie, and I don't know where they're at when that photo was taken.
Yeah, we try it, and when we post evidence, we don't post it if there's any question in our mind that it might be something else. I've heard some really cool EVPs, but there's one, and I don't even remember where it came from, but we're listening to it, and I said, that I don't remember saying that, but I said, that sounds like me. Now, spirits can mimic your voice, but where it sounds like me, I just say I can't post that on a website because I can't say that that's not me.
I've got a good example of that. I went on an investigation with Beaker and Lurch, and it was to a residential in Payson. And we went there, and as I was going through audio, at one point I had left the room for some reason or another. I can't remember what was going on. But I came back, got my audio recorder, took it home, and as I'm listening, I hear what sounds like a woman's voice singing. And I'm like, wait a minute. There is no woman there. It's kind of a high-pitched, kind of weird song. And I'm like, I got a really cool EVP. And I played it back for Lurch, and Lurch goes, oh, while you were gone, we're screwing around, and I was singing this song. But if he hadn't have told me it was him, I would have thought I had a cool EVP because I couldn't account for anybody, a woman's voice singing this song. And it's kind of a weird, like, high-pitched, kind of weird. I'm like, oh, wow, that
sounds like Lurch, being high-pitched and weird.
But yeah, and so I was like, oh, I guess that's not an EVP because I was able to account for it after the fact. But so you got to be careful.
Right. I'm going to give you a little blurb I learned about Mr. Geller that might kind of explain some of the things he says and why all the magicians are kind of against him. Because it's very easy to think, oh, they were just jealous because he did these really cool things. As magicians, they have kind of a group. I don't know if you call it a guild or whatever it is. But they really take pride in creating convincing illusions. They felt like Uri was demeaning their craft because he would tell people that his abilities were beamed to him from a spaceship sent by a superior civilization in outer space.
Oh, that don't sound good.
Yeah, so that's not really helping his cause.
And that's what got him kicked out of the Magicians Alliance. I think I've made a huge mistake.
Now, aliens coming to Earth to do things, that's a whole nother podcast. And I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but the likelihood of it happening, in my opinion, is pretty low.
Here's the thing. I got to interject here. Here's the thing. Having been involved in this, having talked to people who've been abducted by aliens, having talked to people, all kinds of people, I think, honestly, more people accept the paranormal than they do aliens. But the minute you say that aliens are bringing messages to your mind, I think the vast majority of everybody goes, cuckoo. They think you're nuts.
Yep.
That it sounds nuts. Even sometimes in the right company, and I think everybody in this room can agree with me, there's certain people you don't talk about the paranormal because they're going to think you're nuts because that's just that type of person that they're a non-believer and they're going to go, you're a nut.
Right. And I can't tell you how many people call us for residentials and hem and haw on the phone, and I have to say, just tell me what's happening. I won't call you crazy.
I say, and I've been there too. But the minute you start just talking to a random person about aliens beaming messages to your brain, people are going to think you're nuts. Unless you're at an alien convention, people are going to think you're nuts. It's just one of those things that sounds crazy.
Yeah, because it is.
Kind of is.
So all you Supernatural Hour, alien people,
we still love you.
I'm not saying they're not beaming messages to your mind. I just said it sounds crazy. But if they are, we want to hear about it.
So, just to kind of end on these other magicians,
I really think we should say if you have anything comment, that you should comment us back on that alien.
You should. If you have some legit alien stories, I want to hear them because, as you can tell,
we need to
I'm
hear them.
open-minded to all sides of the story.
Yeah.
But I want to come back to James the Amazing Randi.
Yeah, oh boy.
Okay, so I told you he wrote a book, that big long one.
Titled one?
Yeah.
He wrote another one.
Oh yeah.
Is the title as long?
No, it's called The Magic of Uri Geller.
Oh, another one just about Uri.
He's kind of obsessed in a negative way about
Obviously.
Uri.
I think he
Yeah.
found a way to monetize something.
I do too.
The aliens were
I do
telling
too.
the aliens were telling Amazing Randy that we're not sending messages to Yuri.
He just barely passed away, I believe. He about almost 100 years old.
The
Randy?
Amazing
The Amazing Randi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it in this book, it pretty much just goes through and says that all of his tricks can be duplicated, and he uses, similar methods that any magician would use. He's
Right.
just put a twist on it,
Make it a grander illusion.
exactly.
Right. I watched the Amazing Randy's TED Talk. He's not trying to, debunk everything, but at the same time, he's just trying to debunk everything. And I have to say, I kind of got tired of listening to him after a while. I put him on and I was like, okay, I'm going to value your opinion for a little while. But then after a while, I had to just shut him down.
There's some people that to a point, they start ignoring what's in front of them just for the sake of standing on their
Right.
platform. There's a guy, his last name is Nichols. I can't remember what his first name was, but he belongs to Skeptical Inquirer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that organization. But basically, they're a hardcore science group that is just hell-bent on debunking anything and everything paranormal, anything and everything alien. I mean, anything that is not just hardcore, written, etched in iron science, they are going to try and debunk. And I respect what they do to an extent, but there's other stuff that you look at and there's really no good explanation, and they will just stand on that platform of it's BS regardless of how much evidence is put in front of them.
Right.
And it sounds like this Randy guy's kind of the same thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to debunk everything, but I will debunk everything. And,
Right.
and it's almost annoying how hard they dig in on their
And he
stance.
actually put up $1 million and had it bonded, and he had it sitting there, and he had called out, so anybody that can come out and truly prove this, you can have my $1 million.
Oh, wow.
But I also remember when I used to study Ed and Lorraine Warren, they proved in a court of law that ghosts were real. So why didn't these two ever come together? And I know that Ed Warren kind of called him out on that. Well, we proved it in a court of law. Where's my money?
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
If you're listening to this, I would like to hear your opinions. Send us an email at
Apps, APS, .wisps, WISPS, .contact@gmail.com.
So send us your thoughts. I'm interested to hear what y'all have to say.
We would love to hear from you.
Castle,
Yes,
you took a little sabbatical.
I did take a little sabbatical, and I will pop in from time to time now for guest appearances.
Yeah, see, as the big sister, I can twist his arm and
You will come podcast.
give him a noogie.
No, so just so everyone's wondering where I've been and where I'm at and where I will be. So I had to take a break, and there's some reasons why, and I'll get into those, and we're going to do a tell-all expose right here, right now.
Ooh.
Cool.
Just to be really clear, Beaker, Tim, is still my friend. I like Tim, I like Beaker, but we did have some differences of opinions on the direction of this podcast, apps, WISPs, etc. Deanna and I actually founded WISPs back in 2012 and set it up and got it going. And then we formed apps as the kind of the commercial venture to house the podcast under. And
also the events.
and the events.
The paranormal events where
because
we charge and
we didn't feel good doing that under WISP because we wanted that to be a completely nonprofit. We didn't want to accept any money, won't accept any money for residential investigations or business investigations. But to fund that, I mean, web hosting costs money, podcasting equipment costs money, sometimes venues cost money. I mean, there has to be an income source. And initially, Deanna and I were paying for these things out of pocket. It was just kind of like, okay, I guess I'm going to eat rice this month because I need to buy this
Business
or that.
cards or
Yeah. Or we were having the members be like, hey, you can be a member of WISP, but you need to pay us $20 so that we can buy your business cards and, whatever else. Honestly, we thought it'd be better if the organization could support itself. And so we started the business end of apps, which is the events and things like that, now onto the Patreon. And that helps support that and support us so we can do this. The vision that Deanna and I had initially was basically just that, to support the organization. Tim had a different idea. He wanted to become a self-sustaining business with office space and to quit jobs and be able to have it be like an occupation. And honestly, in my opinion, I didn't think, and I still don't think that's really a realistic expectation. I don't think the market is big enough to support that.
As we were sitting here in the attic of despair with curtains hanging from the ceiling to
Exactly.
help soundproof the room.
Exactly. And so I think the intention was good. I know there was talk of having apps do a paranormal conference, and that honestly kind of scared me to death because I'd been to several of those and they looked like they were commercial failures. I mean, they were cool events, but honestly, for what they're paying to bring in celebrities and everything
It can
else.
be very, very expensive.
Right.
Oh,
and,
yeah, like $5,000 just for your booth space.
Exactly.
and at the end of the day, I mean, I saw a lot of booths come in. I saw a lot of celebrities come in, and in my mind, I'm seeing the money rack up to do that.
And
then
I'm not seeing a lot of people
coming in to
buying the tickets.
to buy tickets. And honestly, if you don't have the people coming in to buy tickets, your vendors are going to be pissed off and they're not going to come back. You're going to end up having to pay for celebrities out of pocket. And so those things were kind of had me concerned. And so we had some different philosophies there. And then ultimately, I was just getting remarried. I decided that my focus needed to be more on my family. And then on top of that, I also have started a photography business on the side. My webpage is castlenaturestudio.com, where I take landscape and wildlife photos and sell those prints, and which necessitated a lot of travel on my part because I have to drive to where animals are at because there's not that many around here compared to, say, Yellowstone or the Tetons or...
If you go up here by the golf course, there's lots of bighorn sheep.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know there's bighorn sheep here. How many?
Oh, a whole herd of them. Come hang out at the golf course.
How about that? I just found a new spot. Anyway, so with all of that, I just didn't have the time to dedicate anymore. And with the difference of philosophies, there was some tension that didn't need to be there. Like I said, Tim and I are still friends. I think Tim's an amazing guy. I know he's no longer with the podcast and he's off doing his own thing as well. But it was just, there were some tensions there that just needed to be resolved before we weren't friends anymore, if that makes sense. So that's where I've been and what I've been up to. I still talk with Deanne and consult with Deanne quite a bit on cases, and she's asked me to come back and guest host on podcasts from time to time. So I may still pop in and say howdy.
Say how.
How? And say hi. Edit that out, Don. Edit that out. Me talk good. That's good spelled G-U-D. So that's where I've been. What else do you want to know?
Awesome. So do you have a bucket list? We have a bucket list is one of our things nowadays.
I do have a bucket list. So
Just one thing on the bucket list. Save the others for later.
I'll put this notebook away then. If I could go bucket list like...
It can be a thing. It can be a place. It can be I would love to meet this person, dead or alive. Just
if
anything.
I had my bucket list thing that I would like to go do, can I have two?
You can
Sure.
have two.
Okay, give me
I
two.
guess you can have
Okay.
two.
I would love to investigate Waverly Manor, which I think everybody would,
Yes.
because that place is friggin' amazing. That would be my first one, and that one's actually doable. Actually, all mine are doable. And then the next one, I would love to see Ed and Lorraine's Cursed Object collection.
Oh, I would go with you to that one.
That would be fun.
Absolutely.
Didn't you have some spoons or something from that, or was that from...
I do have the Amityville spoons. I had the opportunity actually to talk to Lorraine Warren before she died several years ago. Probably would have been the early 2000s, probably like 2005. I spoke with Lorraine Warren, had a good hour-long conversation on the phone with her. Really neat lady. This is just before Ed passed away. Ed was in poor health, but I had the chance to talk with her. And I was actually getting information on how to go out and see their collection. I actually called the number not expecting for Lorraine to actually answer the phone. I thought for certain I'd get an assistant or something along those lines, but Lorraine answered and we had a good conversation. But I would really love to go out and see their collection.
Right.
would
Do
be
you
amazing.
follow Tony Spera, their son-in-law?
I'm familiar with Tony. I've not actually followed him.
He's doing a lot with their collection and trying to get it out there, and he's trying to do some kind of a big expo to put like Annabelle out there.
Oh,
and-
good. See, Annabelle's one I would like to see. Now, as far as Dawn is asking about, I do have some spoons from Amityville. I have those. They were given to Jimmy Chunga from the Radio Rodham podcast, directly from the Warrens. These spoons are in shadow boxes, and they are mounted on the bed sheets that the actual DeFeos were murdered on. These spoons are allegedly cursed, and bad things happen if you try and sell them or do anything other than give them away as a gift.
So you got them as a gift?
I did. And I actually store those spoons. They stay in my garage. Keep them stored with selenite and salt, and I keep them in a way that basically they're not going to be a problem for me and my family. But I do have those spoons.
And do you have it marked or something? So what happens when you pass on or it gets lost so people understand what's in that shadow box?
Someone is totally screwed. That's what's going to happen.
Great. 'Cause we
That
did
won't
one
be
on
me.
curses, and now I'm like seeing this as a future curse ending up somewhere. You know, somebody's going to buy this little cool, oh, look at these cool spoons. And
Yeah. You and I just met tonight for the first time, Rogue. But one of my things, I don't purport to be a psychic or medium or anything along those lines. I'm just not. But if I did say I had a spiritual gift, I can pick out a cursed object in a room like that, like I snap my fingers. I can walk into a room and like look at something and go, that's a problem.
okay.
I honestly don't get much of a vibe off these spoons. I know that other people have talked about having issues with the spoons.
Yeah.
I spent quite a bit of time when I first got them cleansing them.
Okay.
People are like, well, what do you mean by cleansing them? Letting them sit in sunlight. Just all the things you do to cleanse a crystal. Use crystals that are commonly used for cleansing, aka selenite, obsidian, things like that. I've stored those around it. I just don't get the bad vibes off of those that I think are there. So I don't know if there's anything still attached to those, or if it's at bay, or if it's gone. I don't know.
So if you're new to the podcast and haven't heard, my skill is psychometry, which is
that
touching
was-
something and feeling the energy.
Have you touched
And I
it?
have actually, I haven't touched the spoons, but I've touched the box.
Okay.
And I don't get the feeling that I thought I would get, kind of like you said. There's definitely,
They definitely have a vibe.
they have a vibe. They have a very heavy feel, but I thought it would feel heavier.
Interesting.
Considering what and
Oh.
where.
If you were to
they're
ask
from.
me if there's a negative spirit or even any spirit attached to those, at this point I would say definitely not.
Not.
But they've definitely been exposed to a bad environment. That's probably the best way I could describe those
You can tell
things.
that sweet little grandma didn't just make tea with them on Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, you can tell they came
Yeah.
from somewhere bad. When I walk into a room that has like an object that's got a problem, I almost get like tunnel vision on it, and it's like my eyes just can't leave the object. I'm like, oh, that thing.
You're just really
that
drawn
kind-
to it.
Kind of like
Yeah.
a rock holding a door open in Tooele.
Yeah, like that particular investigation that
Oh.
we went to 3 times. We walked in like that rock is a problem, and
Yeah.
we took the rock, and the problem went away.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright 2021 by Advanced Paranormal Services.